Full and equal choice. That's the message Sheryl Sandberg hopes women and men will take away from her book. So does it come down to confidence and being assertive in your world with whatever it is you've identified is your priority and what you want? In your circle of friends and family, it's interesting to ask this question. We've gathered our coworkers here and our friends here. We've all come to our workplace here at KATU from very different avenues with different priorities. And so we're here to talk about and share with you what those priorities are and why they've worked for us individually. Tiffany Lipinski, our news director here, you can talk about how it is so important to have confidence.
It is, but you know, the point that she made right off the bat about the term bossy really resonated with me because I am an assertive woman. I have been my whole life, and she's right. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember my parents, you know, telling me, stop being so bossy, stop being so bossy. Well, that's a trait that served me really well in my career path, but I absolutely believe it's 100% true that women who are assertive in the workplace, particularly in management roles, aren't viewed the same way as men who are assertive in the workplace. I've lived it. I've absolutely experienced that, so that really resonated with me.
But I talked to her about, isn't this, it feels like it's not a terribly new conversation, that we've been encouraging our daughters for a couple generations now to have self-confidence and be assertive and dream it and go out and get it, you know? And again, maybe it is in your circle and how you're encouraging your daughter Grace and our other daughters. I'd like to think that we are empowering our daughters and our boys. 50-50.
I think it's interesting. I don't think anyone has ever said to a boy, "You're too bossy." It's not a term that's applied to men or boys. It's uniquely for women. And I definitely also got called bossy. And my dad did encourage me that I could be whatever I wanted to be, and I took that and I ran with it. But I also was dateless in high school. So I think it's also kind of like a man repellent. So I think women are constantly juggling, you know, that we are smart and capable, but we do want the other side of life, which is to attract a man and have a family, and it's a tough dynamic for women.
And that's what she talks about, is that work balance and how there's no one size fits all. And again, what works for us at different stages of our life. And Carolyn, you were a stay-at-home mom for a while.
I was. For 5 years, my daughter was born, and I had no master plan going into it. I knew I'd stay home with her for about a year. But then a year came and went, and I was like, I'm not leaving this baby. I have to stay with her. So it was almost like, and at the time I was married, so it was a possibility for me to do it, and I was glad I did.
Well, and I think, you know, your point is well taken as well, in terms of, I had the same experience, and I'm sure you did too, and a lot of us here did. I had parents who encouraged me to be assertive, to, you know, be confident, to lean in, to use her phrase. It wasn't so much about my opinion and my perspective on it. It was how I was received or perceived by those around me. I've always been self-confident. I'm fine with it. I've encountered a lot of people around me in the workplace who aren't.
I think there's a stigma too with the terms aggressive and assertive. For a man to be aggressive, there's that argument that that's a good quality for a man to have, but sometimes women in the workforce, if you are aggressive, that's almost seen as a negative. So it's kind of these blanket terms and how they're affixed to the different genders, and it creates an argument, or it creates a discussion like we're having today.
Right, otherwise then we're called the other B word, which we can't say.
Beautiful,
that's it, right?
I got called a better word. In my 20s, I was a manager of a bakery, and I was reprimanding an employee, a man, and he called me a despot. And I had to look it up.
I was going to say,
I'm sure what it meant, but it means like you know, an emperor who's not good.
well,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Not even the B word.
It's almost accepted for a man to be able to do that and sort of quote unquote rule over
your
the
manager
employees.
may reprimand you if you're doing something not good, and this person was doing something not good. I can't remember now, but I reprimanded him, and he said, "You're a despot."
We all have to recognize the new beautiful baby here. Stephanie's here as a new mom, and you're choosing to stay home. And Sarah, we know you are working very hard at your career.
Yes.
How have you come to these choices? And you do have such great confidence that you bring to the workplace.
Right. Well, at this point, I'm not at the place in my life where I need to make a choice necessarily between having a family and my career. So I'm just going forward with something that I love and am very passionate about. But it's definitely something that I struggle with when I consider the future, because ultimately I do want to have a family, and so I have goals to be able to do it all, I guess. You know what I mean? I want to, and better than I see people, women who are able to have both opportunities.
And this is what Melanie and I talk about. We'd like to think that you can have your career and have your babies, have your beautiful family, but you do make choices. It's all about choices. We wake up very early in the morning, so we can have a career that we love and work with people that we love, and then we get to go be with our kids in the afternoon. And it's a choice we make. It's a trade-off.
Well, and
Yes.
it wasn't always that way.
No.
You and people who don't know much about our business, we have a lot of different options. We live in small towns.
Right.
We move around a lot. Right. We work all kinds of hours because the news is 24/7. And I'd imagine that in earlier parts of your career, when kids weren't a factor, it was your oyster. You could choose whatever shift, whatever town, whatever.
Stay as long as you want. Now the clock is ticking, and you want to make sure you get home for your kids in the afternoon. And that's the choice I made, is to work an early shift so I can have my afternoons free with my children. Otherwise, I wouldn't see them. I'd be up on Mount Hood at 7 o'clock at night and not knowing really when I was going to get home. So choosing this shift has helped me have a little bit of both worlds. However, I was talking with Natalie a little bit earlier about how, in some senses, I feel as though both worlds could be a little bit better if I focused on one or the other. I know I could be doing better as a mom sometimes when I'm exhausted and I make the choice to just take a quick nap while the kids are playing or watching a movie. And then sometimes I'm at work and I think, boy, if I really could put more hours into work, I could maybe go for winning an Emmy Award or something like that. It's these choices where I feel a little bit spread thin sometimes, but I do feel fortunate that I have kind of my hand in both.
That's the constant battle of the working mom, I think, and Cheryl talks about there is no one size fits all. You have to decide what your priorities are and then be assertive and build your world around that, what works for you at work and at home.
And I don't think that any man has had the conversation with himself, can I have it all? They don't have those conversations. I feel like that's also uniquely women. I mean,
I think it is too, and one of the critics of this book in particular, I think, said it best. It's not this idea of can you have it all? You can have it all, but you can't necessarily, as a woman, have it all at once.
Correct. Yeah, I think some of us, for a lot of us, I feel like I'm a single mom, and I definitely made some choices in my career to be able to be home for my children when they get off the school bus, and I'm delaying maybe other things I'd like to pursue in my career until after my children leave the home.
You can do it then. All of a sudden you can work more than full-time again and enjoy the heck out of it, right?
Yeah,
Because it can be
absolutely.
your priority again.
I'm curious, is that what your intentions are? What went into your decision?
My choice was to stay home full time till, my hope is till he's out of the house, like my mom did. She was a stay-home mom since I was 5, and I enjoyed every little bit of her being home, and that was just important to me that, I do that for him, that he comes home and mom's home, and kids that have moms that are home generally do better in school. They don't get as much trouble, they always have someone home to take care of them if they're ever sick, and it just works out.
How
for
important
me.
is it to you that you raise your baby instead of maybe somebody at a daycare center raising your baby?
It's important to me because it's very important because I know he's being raised the way I want him to. I know he's okay, I know that he's eating right, not somebody else's, oh, he's eating okay to somebody else, but to me, no, that's not him, or, I know how he is and other people don't, so.
But then again, you made that choice, and you weren't afraid to speak up for yourself and advocate and decide, I'm staying home. And that's what her message is. Decide what you want your message to be, what your priorities are, and go for it.
Well, and I think the other thing that really struck me, and you and I were talking about this in the newsroom earlier, Natalie, is this isn't a new conversation, and I'm not as young as I used to be. So even in my role, I've been in this career now, and I have been extraordinarily, singularly career focused for 20 years. And you know, I have a group of friends spread out all across the country, most of whom are professional women, many of whom are also moms, not all of them. What strikes me about this book and the conversation that this raises all over again is that the idea that women don't support each other for their differing choices. That, for example, I choose not to have a family, I'm focused on my career, and that other women who make a different choice, you know, may be critical of that and vice versa. And that's where I actually agree with her in terms of we haven't necessarily come as far as we think we have as professional women and
better
mom
support
women.
one another. But what's interesting, and I'm thinking about this and the homes that we're raised in and how that really does empower us to be the adult we're going to be. My mom was encouraged not to have a career, right? Her generation, you will be a great wife and a great mother, you will not have a career. She raised me that you will absolutely be excited to go out and have a career, right? I'm going to go out and get what she couldn't. But I wanted both. So it was my mission in life to figure out, you know, make the choices and the balance and figure it out. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well, Tiffany, you brought up the point about sometimes women are critical of other women based on what their choice may be. And I've always gone about it as, you know, being a mom and being a professional person as well. I feel as though any woman who makes the decision not to have a family, we need to support her decision as well, because it's hard enough to be a good parent when you really want to be a good parent and every bit of your heart is happy that you are a parent. That's a difficult position to be in as well. So we need to support those people who make the choice not to have children because, hey, all the better for the kids in the end.
Cheryl also brings up two important points. Number one, she wants equality for the guys too. If they want to be stay-at-home dads or work from the house, let's support that too. She's hoping when her 5-year-old son grows up that will be okay if he wants to be a stay-at-home dad.
Which is the new dynamic in this.
Right.
In, you know, I talked about having had this conversation before. That's a new dynamic, and I kind of wonder, you know, fast forward 20 years, will men be as critical of each other for this being the stay-at-home dad? And I wonder if they feel pressure if they make those choices now, you know, because they didn't have those choices before.
It's been a tough spot right now, even currently, for the men who make those decisions. And then also for women who are working, she wants us to raise our hand at the boardroom, you know, at the table, when we're in there with everyone, speak up, be assertive, and represent other women, represent ourselves well. Don't be afraid to ask for that promotion. And if it doesn't feel good, if you're not working for a company who recognizes what you bring to the table, it doesn't feel good for a reason, you know. Empower yourself to go out and find something else, because there is something that will feel better and fit your lifestyle and your personality better.
And I think people don't realize being a stay-at-home mom is a 24/7 job.
Oh, we know, honey.
Some don't realize. And it's
I actually
you never
heard
get a break.
And I actually heard in the context of reading some articles on this book even, she actually, Cheryl doesn't call it stay-at-home mom, she calls it work-at-home mom. I actually think that's a better term for it.
It is absolutely.
It's really hard because, I mean, I get up a million times at night for him, and everyone else gets a good night's sleep, and everyone's like, why are you so tired? Yeah.
Going to work becomes your me time, you know, it becomes a great escape to go be around other adults.
Yeah,
so
and I mean, at
you're
times
working hard, we know.
Yeah, at times I considered maybe going to work or going to school, but, you know, there's things you sacrifice, and, you know, being home with him is just more important.
Enjoy
to
it, it's going to
me.
last 5 minutes.
I know, right? All right, Sarah, what are you going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah,
My choice?
your choices.
Oh, goodness. You only have 20 years. I struggle with this all the time.
No pressure, right?
But don't you think you always will? I mean, your life will constantly be changing. What's a good fit for you right now will be very different 5 years from now, 20 years from now. I think you're always going to be evaluating where you are and if it's a good fit.
And that's why I think it's important for me to just live every day with the next thing in mind, you know, and still keeping the future, you know, keeping my future plans in mind, but, you know, not letting go of another opportunity because I think that it's going to lead this place, or does that make any sense?
For sure, and I think that's her biggest message, is that she wants that to be your choice.
Right.
She wants, at the end of the day, for Sarah to decide what Sarah wants to do, for it to not be anybody else's decision but Sarah's, that you have equality.
And I think it's also important to mention that as women, we have we might think differently or express ourselves differently than men in the workplace, but in some ways that can be an advantage, and we need to learn to take hold of that and really, and not let that be our downfall, but recognize that, hey, we think differently, and we can, this is our strong point, or this is my strong point, and so.
We good?
I was thinking back to the 5 years that I was home with my daughter, and it was actually kind of harder in my mind to be at home with her because there was no defined thing that I was supposed to do every day. When you're in a career and in a job, there are certain tasks you do, and it gives you sort of a structure. And at home, it's all unstructured. And so it was actually emotionally easier for me to go back to work when she was 5 than it was to be with her. I loved it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's harder.
There's a sense of accomplishment you get from finishing a story in our case, or doing a great interview with somebody, but at home, those accomplishments almost go unrecognized, like the I folded that onesie like a champ. It's really hard. They really go unrecognized, and there's also the sort of mental toll that goes along with being you and your baby all day long. That's probably why there's an importance for women nowadays to kind of come together and have discussions with one another, with play dates and that kind of thing, because that way the mom doesn't feel as much in the way of isolation and feeling as though you haven't had an intelligent conversation with anyone other than about, what kind of Play-Doh you should use for your sculpture or something like that. So
I'm thinking about your mom's, where she would have been growing up, and then being a young mom herself, and her confidence, and where she was as far as self-assertiveness, and then how she raised you, and now where Grace is, and where she might be in her 20s or 30s. And I would imagine she'll be oozing confidence.
Yeah, I can only hope so, and already she is now, so I am super proud of where she is. And sometimes she says things that I, at the age of 10, would never have said. And although sometimes I feel like, ooh, maybe I should reel her in, I go, nope, I'm going to step back and let her exercise that confidence, because I don't think that there's a better quality for a young girl to have than the sense that she can speak up, she can speak her mind, she can interject and contribute to the workplace or the conversation as much as the guy sitting next to her.
A little bit of sassiness.
A little bit of sass, not too much, at least not till she's 18 and out of the house.
Somebody else has to do it.
Yeah.
If you have a job, you get appreciated, and being a stay-at-home mom's honestly the most underappreciated job you could ever have. And
His hugs are going to show you how much he appreciates you.
yeah, and people, oh, where's this at? Where's this? You know where everything is, and everyone laughs. It's just funny how they come to me, where's this, and where's dinner, what's for dinner, and it's like, oh gosh, can you make dinner yourself? But you have to do it.
Well, thank you. And I think we all bring something different to the table, and we all need to be self-empowered, right? And encourage each other.
Yes,
Definitely encourage
you got
each
it.
other.